1A. Listening. Hello and welcome to the show. Giving a company the right name can mean the difference between success and failure. Our business expert, Julia, is in the studio with us today, and she's going to give us some tips on naming a company. Good morning, Julia.
Hello.
What advice would you give to someone who is looking for a name for their company?
First of all, you want your customers to be able to remember the name. This means that it has to be quite short. 2 syllables seems to be about right. Think of eBay, Twitter and Nike, and you'll see what I mean.
That makes sense. What else do you recommend, Julia?
Well, there's no magic formula for finding the right name, so you need to take your time over it. First, have a brainstorming session and write down all the ideas that come into your head. Then, take a week or so to think about the names on the list. You might be surprised by the ones that you remember. And this is the point, really. If a name stays in your mind, your customers will probably remember it too.
Are there any kinds of words that make a good company name?
Not really. The name can be absolutely anything. You can even invent your own word if you like. Try joining 2 words together to form a completely new one. Or spell an existing word incorrectly. Anything to make your company sound different. Gizmodo is a good example of this. The word isn't in a dictionary. The founders just made it up.
Have all company names come from brainstorming sessions?
No, not at all. Some companies got their names by chance. Somebody saw or heard something which gave them the idea for a name.
Can you give us an example?
Yes, of course. Have you heard of a company called Caterpillar?
Yes, I have.
You know how a caterpillar moves, don't you?
What do you mean?
They have a lot of legs and they move slowly, sort of pulling themselves up and down. Well, this company, which makes tractors, used to be called the Holt Tractor Company. But one day, the founder, Benjamin Holt, heard someone talking about the company's new tractor. The person said that the vehicle moved like a caterpillar. Mr. Holt liked this image so much that he changed the company name to Caterpillar. The lesson here is that inspiration can come at any time, so you have to keep your eyes and ears open.
What an interesting story. Julia, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
1A. Pronunciation.
Cat. Alex. Sam. Train. James. Kate. Egg. Adele. Emily. Tree. Eve. Leo. Fish. Bill. Chris. Bike. Mike. Ryan. Horse. Paula. Sean. Phone. Joe. Sophie.
1B. Listening.
Hi, my name's Paul Coombs and I'm an interior designer. Today I'm going to give you some tips on choosing the right colours for each of the rooms of your house. Let's start with the dining room. Most people choose warm colours like browns, reds and oranges for this room. If you believe in colour psychology, red and orange are said to be stimulants, so they increase a person's appetite. Colours on the other side of the spectrum, like blue for example, have the opposite effect and stop people from feeling hungry. That's why blue is a poor colour choice for a dining room. Moving on to the kitchen. Now, the colour you paint this room depends on the colour of your kitchen cupboards. You probably won't want to change the ones you've got because they're quite expensive. Popular colours to use in the kitchen are brown, peach and yellow. Strong colours like brick red or dark green can also look nice when they are used with more neutral colours. Colours I wouldn't recommend for a kitchen are lighter shades of green and blue, for the same reason as why they aren't suitable for the dining room. As for the living room, you have to take the size of the room and the lighting into account here, and you also have to think of the effect you want to create. Light colours will make a room seem larger, whereas darker colours will make it feel more comfortable, more cosy. Warm colours like beige, cream, or some shades of yellow can make a room look inviting, while cooler colours like grey can add a touch of formality. Intense colours, such as bright red, are generally not good choices for a living room as they are too stimulating. Now let's take a look at the bedroom. You really want to choose relaxing colours for a bedroom. Colours like pale blue, green or pink usually work well. Red, bright yellow and other intense colours are too stimulating for a restful room like this, so you shouldn't really use them. And finally, the bathroom. Again, the colours you use depend on what effect you want to create. Light colours and natural shades such as light blue and sea green have always been popular for bathrooms because they can create a relaxing spa feeling. In the bathroom, you need to avoid dark colours because it will just make the room seem smaller. Don't forget to take your own colour preferences into consideration when you're deciding which colours to use. You're the one who will have to use the room once it's painted. But if you take my advice, you're sure to be pleased with the result. Good luck with your decorating.
1B. Pronunciation.
Active, envious, sensible, stylish, addictive, aggressive, desirable, rebellious, inexpensive, irresponsible, unattractive, unsuccessful.
2A. Listening. Speaker 1.
This happened a long time ago when my youngest son, Matty, was about 5. We had been visiting friends in England and they had given him a plastic knife as a present. When we got to airport security, the knife showed up on the screen and a customs official took it out of our bag. While I was talking to the customs official and explaining about the knife, I heard my son shout, "Hands up!" I turned around and saw him pointing his plastic water pistol at the customs official.
Speaker 2.
Recently, I went to visit a friend in Spain. When I got to the airport to fly home, I realised that I'd left my phone at her house. I needed to contact her urgently so that she could bring the phone to the airport, but I had absolutely no idea of her number. Then I remembered that she had sent it to me in a message on Facebook. I explained my problem to one of the men at security and he let me use his smartphone to access the site and find the number. When I found it, I called my friend and she brought my phone to the airport.
Speaker 3.
I live abroad and I miss certain things from home, especially hummus. In case you don't know, hummus is a Middle Eastern dish which is a kind of thick paste you can put on bread. In England, you can buy it in a jar from a supermarket. Anyway, on my last trip home to London, I had bought some hummus to take home with me. Unfortunately, the security screener saw the jar in my bag and told me that hummus counts as a liquid. She said that I couldn't take it with me and then threw it away.
Speaker 4.
It was summer and my children were quite young at the time. The day before our flight, we had been to the beach. We had spent most of the day on the rocks with a net and a bucket catching crabs. We put the crabs back before we left the beach and then we went home. The next day at the airport, I noticed that my daughter's bag was extremely wet. When I opened it, I discovered that she had put one of the crabs in an old coffee jar filled with water. Apparently, she wanted to show it to her friends back home.
Speaker 5.
You won't believe what I did at the airport once. When we got to the security gate, I suddenly remembered that I had a small bottle of mineral water in my backpack. So I took it out to throw it away in the containers they have there. Unfortunately, I had my wallet with my passport and my boarding pass in the same hand. So when I threw the bottle in, everything else fell in too. I was hysterical when I realised what I'd done, but fortunately my girlfriend was there to help me. She put her arm in the container and felt around until she found my wallet.
2A. Pronunciation. 1.
Snake. S. Flip-flops. Shoes. Socks. Sights.
2.
Zebra. Z. Clothes. Pajamas. Shorts. Towels.
3.
Snake. S. Cruise. Massage. Passport. Sunset.
4.
Zebra. Z. Razors. Phones. Liquids. Belts.
5.
Snake. S. Books. Bottles. Laptops. Jackets.
2B. Listening.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for turning up here today. Let me start with a question. How often do you go shopping in the high street of your town or village? The answer is probably not very often. But if I asked you if you wanted your high street to survive, it's quite likely that you would say yes. And this is the problem facing the nation's estimated 5,000 high streets today. We want them to be there, but we hardly ever use them. Sadly, they won't survive on this mixture of kind thoughts and nostalgia. Which is why we are starting a new campaign. We've called it Reinventing the High Street. And that is exactly what we aim to do. We want to make sure that our historic shopping communities will exist in the future so that our children's children will be able to use them. We hope that our campaign will help to identify the changes needed to adapt the high street to life in the 21st century. In the weeks and months ahead, we will bring together experts, consumers, and representatives from local and national government to discuss the problem. We want to draw up an action plan to inject new life into the country's high streets. We will highlight ideas that some areas have already adopted, which have made them more popular. One example is the click and collect store, where consumers go to collect the products they have ordered online. This kind of store provides a much-needed modern service for customers and at the same time attracts people to the store, and so it is good for both sides. We will also invite well-known faces to share the secrets of their favourite shopping destinations with us. A long list of celebrities has already agreed to be interviewed, and we would also like you, the readers, to nominate the high streets that you feel have found the answer to survival. These will be shopping communities where there is a balance between large and small stores, and where both consumers and store owners meet each other's needs. At the end of the year, a panel of experts will choose a High Street of the Year, which will serve as a model for all of the others in the country. Most of all, through our campaign, we aim to unite the two conflicting opinions that residents have about their high streets. Somehow, it must be possible both to want your high street to be there and to want to use it. Only when these two desires are brought together as one will our high streets be safe in the future.
2B. Pronunciation. 1,
Ella's phone. Z.
2,
My friend's daughter. Z.
3,
Their aunt's house. S.
4,
Louise's flat. Is.
5,
My boss's desk. Is.
6,
Rory's laptop. Z.
7,
My niece's wedding. Is.
8,
Mike's girlfriend. S.
9,
Beth's children. S.
10,
My nephew's car. Z.
3A. Listening.
And now for television. A new reality show called Forever Young premiered on TV Land last night. Like most reality shows, it puts a group of people in a house to see how they get along. Nothing new, you may think. But in this particular show, there are two different groups, juniors and seniors. The juniors are 3 men and 2 women in their 20s, while the seniors, with the same mix of men and women, have all passed their 70th birthdays. The idea is to see if the two groups can bridge the generation gap and learn something from people who are so much older or younger than they are. In the first episode last night, we met the participants. The seniors, Arthur, Emmeline, Eugene, Lou and Shirley, were the first to arrive at the house. They knew that they were going to be in a reality show, but expected the other housemates to be of a similar age. Enter the juniors. That's Andre, Angelina, Christian, Mike and Sam. They had been told that they were going to star in a fun new TV series, so you can imagine their reaction when they came face to face with the seniors. When both groups realized that they were going to share the same house, they were shocked. Once the participants had calmed down, it was time for the first task. The producers gave each group $500 to buy everything the whole house would need for the next week. At the supermarket, the differences between the two generations soon became apparent. While the seniors were discussing which cleaning products to buy, the juniors were busy filling their trolley with junk food. Of course, both groups were horrified when they saw what the other had bought. In the next task, called Bridging the Gap, the seniors team had to answer quiz questions about pop culture, while the juniors were asked about recent history. 78-year-old Arthur managed to identify the Jonas Brothers from a photo for the seniors, but 24-year-old Sam got no points for saying that the American Civil War happened after the Second World War. Despite Sam's ignorance, the juniors went on to win the quiz. So, the question is, will the two groups manage to bridge the generation gap? Right now, it seems that neither group wants to make contact with the other. But will that change during the show? The only way to find out is to watch the second episode of Forever Young next Wednesday. I know that I'm going to.
3A. Pronunciation.
Asked, hoped, missed, washed, watched. Changed, lived, played, studied, travelled, id, decided, ended, hated, started, wanted.
3B. Listening.
Jane, do you have a minute? I was asked to choose a photograph for the poster of next year's photo exhibition in the village hall in March. I'm struggling to choose the best one. Can you help?
Sure, would be happy to. Is there a theme for the photo exhibition?
Yes, we're asking people to send their best travel and holiday pictures. So I'm trying to find something for the poster to inspire people. What I want to do is to choose one photo, enlarge it, and then put the text on top of the photo with the details of the exhibition.
OK, so let's see what you have here.
Well, I managed to narrow down the list to these 3 photos.
Wow, they all look very professional. I like this one with tourists in the foreground looking at the scenery.
Yes, it's one of my favourites because I took a similar photo from exactly the same spot when I was travelling in Asia. A lot of people go up there just before sunset. It's the best view in Taipei. You can see the whole city below with all the modern tower blocks and skyscrapers. But they all look tiny next to this incredibly tall building. I think it's the 3rd tallest building in the world.
These men on the left-hand side of the picture really give you a perspective, don't they? They make you realise how enormous the tower is. But what I really like about this picture is the way the setting sun is shining on the rock, giving it a lovely warm brown colour.
Yeah, I quite like the colours of this picture. The brown rock against the green tree and green tower. But I'm not sure it will look that good if you enlarge it to poster size. These rocks will look too big, and I think you won't be able to see the text clearly on the poster.
OK. How about this one then? It looks like it was also taken at sunset. Those hills in the distance look so wild and mysterious. And I love the way the sun reflects on the water.
I quite like this one too. The ducks sitting on the boats, drinking and cleaning themselves. They make me smile every time I look at this photo. I think people will really like this picture because it's very peaceful and warm, but at the same time, the ducks make it fun.
OK, so this one is a possibility. How about the third photo? Everybody likes pictures of children playing, and this one just makes you want to jump on the fountain and run around with the kids.
I agree. It's a very happy picture. Even though you can't see the faces of the children, you can tell they are enjoying themselves. I also like the bright background against the dark foreground. Do you think it would look good on the poster?
I'm not sure. I really like this photo, but you said the theme of the exhibition is travelling and holidays. So I think you want to show something a bit more exotic than a fountain on the poster.
You're right. I'm also worried that the boy in the foreground might look too big when you enlarge it, and you won't be able to read the text on the poster.
OK, so it's the three men in the boat with the ducks then?
Yes, it looks like the best choice. Oh, thanks for your help, Jane.
No problem. I'd love to see the poster when it's finished.
3B. Pronunciation.
Background. Foreground. Photocopy. Photograph. Behind. Photographer. Photography. Automatic. Photogenic. Photographic.
4A. Listening.
Welcome back. Now we're going to take a look at recycling around the world. So, Abby, where shall we start?
Let's start with one of the countries that produces the most waste in the world, Australia. According to the OECD Factbook, that's the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, every Australian creates about 600 kilograms of waste each year, which is nearly as much as the USA. The good news is that recycling in Australia has grown in popularity in recent years, and now about a third of the waste is recycled. Now, nearly all households recycle or reuse paper and cardboard, plastic bottles, glass and plastic bags. In fact, Australia is the #1 recycler of old newspapers. Every year, more than 2 billion copies are recycled.
That certainly is good news. What have you got next for us?
We're going to Scandinavia next, to Sweden. In Sweden, recycling is a way of life. Everything from electrical goods to clothes to drinks containers is recycled, and Sweden is the leader in recycling plastic bottles and aluminium cans in Europe. Although the country produces quite a lot of waste, in 2009 the amount was about 480 kilograms per person per year. Only 4% of that ends up in landfill sites. The rest is used in a special programme called the Waste to Energy programme. Waste is burnt to provide heat and energy for hundreds of thousands of homes. In fact, recently Sweden ran out of waste for the scheme and it had to be imported from abroad.
What about countries that aren't so good at recycling?
The main problem with recycling in many countries of the world is that there is no official garbage collection. That means that the state does nothing about recycling either. Take India, for example. Local newspapers report that each person, on average, only produces half a kilo of waste per year. But with a population of well over 1,000 million, that's still a lot of rubbish.
So, in countries like India, nothing is recycled.
Actually, lots of things are recycled in India, but it's often in a very unofficial way. People call on houses to buy old clothes, out-of-date newspapers and broken electrical goods cheaply. Then they sell these items at a higher price to companies who make something different out of them. In the end, about a quarter of the waste is recycled.
Abby, tell us about another country like India.
Well, South Africa has the same kind of problem, although most households do have access to a garbage collection. The problem is there aren't many places to take recyclables, and at the moment all of the waste ends up at a landfill site. In 2011, a waste management report said that the average South African currently produces about 0.7 kilograms of waste per year, and only about 3.3% of this is recycled. This is mostly done by people who collect cans, paper, glass and plastic from dustbins and landfill sites. But the government has recently introduced a new law to try to improve the situation. The aim of the new Waste Act is that all households separate their rubbish within the next 4 years.
Let's hope it works. Abby, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome.
4A. Pronunciation. 1,
Fish. Biscuit. Environment. Lid. Packet.
2,
Bike. Eye. Decide. Diet. Rubbish. Wine.
3,
Train. Container. Garbage. Paper. Waste.
4,
Fish. Bin. Guilty. Packaging. Recycle.
5,
Bike. Eye. Away. Lifestyle. Polystyrene. Reapply.
6,
Train. Danger. Date. Plastic. Tray.
4B. Listening.
Hello and welcome to the programme. Now, you may have noticed how important internships are today if you want to get a job. Around a fifth of young people are being taken on by companies after working as interns. Now, is it fair that companies are employing often very well-qualified young people without paying them? Today, we have Olga with us. Olga, you worked as an intern, and now I'm pleased to say you're in full-term employment. What's your view?
Well, I'd like to start with the question of living expenses. Most internships last for about 3 months. Many graduates can't afford to live away from home for such a long time without earning any money. Internships in London are completely out of reach for most of the UK's youngsters. There is a recent survey that reports a huge 78% of all 18 to 34-year-olds have said that they could not afford to live in the capital if they were offered an unpaid internship. That leaves companies in London with only 22% of all the country's graduates to choose from if they don't offer a salary. So, by offering unpaid internships, these companies are limiting the choice of people they can take on. If the internship was paid, then the company could choose the most talented applicants, instead of only employing those candidates who have enough money to pay their own living expenses.
What other reasons do you have, Olga?
Well, employing an unpaid intern for a long period of time is actually illegal. You see, the company is breaking the Minimum Wage Act of 1998. This law states that all workers must receive a wage. So far, all of the interns who have taken their employer to court for not paying them have won their case. and the companies found guilty of breaking the law have all had to pay a heavy fine. So, you see, in the long run, it might actually be more expensive to employ an unpaid intern than to give them a salary.
But won't companies take on fewer interns if they have to pay for them?
That certainly is a possibility, David. But I think that there is another alternative. In my opinion, we should go back to the traditional work experience placements of the past. These placements lasted only 2 weeks, and they were much more suitable for graduates who couldn't afford to work free for a long period of time. If companies offered 2-week placements instead of 3-month unpaid internships, they wouldn't be in danger of breaking the law, and they wouldn't miss out on the talent.
Thank you, Olga. Now let's hear from Terence Littlewood. Terence, you don't agree with Olga, do you?
Well, I take a number of Olga's points, but...
4B. Pronunciation.
Residence. Scholarship. Seminar. Vacancy. Attend. Degree. Postgraduate. Professor. Tutorial. Dissertation. Referee. Undergraduate.
5A. Listening. Speaker 1.
I'm in my final year at school, so I spend most of my time studying, but some evenings I like to watch TV to relax. I'm not so keen on the programmes on national television, so I usually watch cable networks like Discovery Channel. My favourite programme is How It's Made, which is like a kind of short documentary about how they make everyday objects in factories. Like most people my age, I often use the internet, usually to play games or to chat with my friends. I suppose I spend about 12 hours a week watching TV and 15 hours online.
Speaker 2.
I guess I'm going off television, really. I just find that it isn't as interesting these days. There's so much more happening on the web with people talking about things that are going on. Social media is being updated every second, 24/7, so that you feel that you are actually part of the world around you. Whenever the TV is on, it only has a fraction of my attention, and my eyes are always looking over to my phone or my laptop, which are always within reach. I would estimate that I probably spend twice as much time online these days than I do watching TV.
Speaker 3.
My wife and I only switch the television on when we know there's a programme that we want to watch. We both like some of the game shows, and we quite like a good film, but apart from that, our tastes are quite different. I like to watch the football when it's on, but my wife isn't at all interested. She prefers period dramas, which don't appeal to me. We only ever use the internet for emails or to talk to our daughter in Canada once a week. Although we don't watch that much TV, we spend even less time online.
Speaker 4.
Yeah, I watch quite a lot of TV, really. I never miss my favourite shows, and I've always got my smartphone on so that I can comment on them with my friends as we watch. The X Factor is the best. It's a kind of interactive talent show where different people come on stage to show what they can do. During the acts, my friends and I exchange our views on Twitter. It's almost as if we were in the same room together. I spend a lot of time online too, but not as much as I do in front of the telly.
Speaker 5.
I'm really into music, but not the kind of mainstream music you find on music channels on the TV. The only place you can listen to the bands that I like is on the internet. When I'm at home, You're much more likely to find me in my study, in front of my computer, than watching TV. There are some great videos online, not only music videos, but also news stories too. I can't stand watching the news on TV because it's so boring and repetitive. You get a much wider view from reading different opinions on the internet.
5A. Pronunciation. 1,
What's the weather forecast for the weekend?
2,
The viewers voted for the best band.
3,
Have you ever visited Vietnam or Cambodia?
4,
Did you watch the quiz show on Wednesday?
5,
The volleyball team won a valuable victory.
6,
We've been very busy since we set up our new business.
5B. Listening.
Susan, can you tell us something about where you live?
Yes, it's a little village in North Germany called Molzen. It's about 90 kilometres south of Hamburg, right in the middle of the countryside. There's a school with about 80 pupils, and there's a sports ground and a park. In the middle of the village, there's a big farm with lots of cows, and there's a stream running through the farm. We used to have a village shop, but it closed down last year.
Where did you live before?
I used to live in Manchester. I went to university there.
What do you do here in Molzen?
I run an organic food company with my husband. He's German. We met while I was at university, and we came here because his family has an organic farm near here. Our company buys grain from organic farmers all over North Germany. We turn the grain into flour, and then we make baking mixes from the flour. We sell the baking mixes to organic food shops in nearly every European country. I'm the sales and marketing manager, and I have to go to different cities to visit the customers. That's the part of my job I like most, really.
What do you like about living where you do?
I like going running along the country roads and through the woods right outside my back door. It's easier to drive in the country too, because there are no traffic lights and there isn't much traffic on the roads. I also like swimming in the heated outdoor pool in the rain when there is nobody else there except the village ducks. You can swim in the lake at sunset too, as long as there aren't too many mosquitoes. In my free time, I play in the village band. We often go round the other villages playing at festivals, and there's always someone I know.
Is there anything you don't like about living in the country?
Yes. Although I don't mind driving, I sometimes hate the fact that I have to drive everywhere because there are no buses or trams. The nearest train station is nearly 8 kilometres away. It's also quite scary outside at night because it is really dark and there are no street lamps.
Do you think that you'll ever go back to the city?
Yes, I hope so. I don't like being so far away from the city. If we lived nearer, I could go to concerts more often. I have to ride on a train for 45 minutes or drive for an hour if I want to go shopping in Hamburg. I'd like to live closer to an airport too, so I could travel more often. I'd like to go back to living in a city when I retire. At the moment, it's nice to have a big house in the country, but I think when I'm older, a small house in the city will be better.
5B. Pronunciation. 1,
bull, bush, mud, look, wood.
2,
Car, farm, grass, path, valley.
3,
tree, hedge, field, leaf, sheep.
4.
Owl, ow, cow, mountain, grow, town.
5.
Clock, stones, crops, pond, cockerel.
6A. Listening. Speaker 1.
This happened to me while I was painting the upstairs windows of my first house. While I was up the ladder, I heard the phone ringing, so I came down the ladder to answer it. I left the paintbrushes and the paint pot on the outside window ledge so that I could carry on later. Unfortunately, while I was on the phone, a gust of wind moved the ladder, causing it to knock the paint pot off the window ledge. The paint fell all over my neighbour's brand new car, which he'd parked outside his front door. I spent the rest of the weekend cleaning his car.
Speaker 2.
My mother bought us a picture when we moved into our new flat, but my husband didn't like it much, so we didn't put it up at first. We waited until the day before her first visit to hang it on the wall. When my mother arrived, she commented on how nice the picture looked. Then she sat down in the chair underneath it to have a cup of tea. 2 minutes later, the picture fell off the wall and landed on her head. She was sitting there with the frame around her neck. Luckily, she saw the funny side of it.
Speaker 3.
We were thinking about converting our attic into a study, so I went up to have a look with my son. Suddenly, he took a step forward and started falling through the floor. Luckily, I managed to pull him out before he went through completely. We went straight down to inspect the rooms below, but we couldn't see any damage. Then my neighbour came round to complain about a large hole in the ceiling of one of his bedrooms. It turned out that the attic belongs to both of our houses, and we had been over his house when my son fell. That was the end of our plans for the attic.
Speaker 4.
This happened when I was laying the new floor of my living room. Before I started, I measured the room carefully and cut all of the pieces of wood to the right length. Then I put down the first line of wood, which fitted beautifully. In the next line, I noticed a small space between the end of the new floor and the wall. The space grew as I laid the rest of the wood across the room, and by the time I had reached the other side, there was a gap of about 5 centimetres. The problem was that my living room is not a perfect square. Never mind, you can't actually see the gap because my sofa is on top of it.
Speaker 5.
The radiator in our downstairs toilet was leaking water, so I decided to try and fix it myself. I emptied all of the water out of the radiator, or at least I thought I had, and then I started to take it off the wall. Unfortunately, as I did so, a jet of hot black water shot up into the air and made a hole in the ceiling. I dropped the radiator, ran out of the room, and slammed the door behind me. By the time I had turned off the water supply to the house, our downstairs toilet was unrecognisable. Since then, we've always got a professional in to do any jobs around the house.
6A. Pronunciation. 1.
We struggled with the shelves.
2.
The TV screen is scratched.
3.
He asked if I was stressed.
4.
The actress likes the script.
5.
They jumped into the stream.
6.
An ice cream costs 90p.
6b. Listening.
Hello and welcome to the programme. Now, complaining in a restaurant can be quite difficult, and very few people know how to do it well. Today, I've got a restaurant critic in the studio with me. He's going to give us some tips on what you should do if you aren't satisfied with the service you receive. Good morning, Owen.
Hello.
What's the key to making a successful complaint, Owen?
The most important thing is to act immediately. If you aren't happy with something, say so right away. That way the restaurant will have a chance to do something about it and you won't spoil the meal for everybody else.
How should we go about making the complaint?
Call the waiter over quietly and calmly explain what is wrong. Express your disappointment and then politely ask him or her to solve the problem. It's important not to blame the waiter, as he or she may not be directly responsible for the problem. If a dish isn't cooked to your satisfaction, it is more likely to be the chef's fault than the waiter's.
So, what should we do if the waiter doesn't solve the problem?
That's when you need to take the complaint to someone in a higher position. Ask politely to speak to the manager. Explain the problem to him or her and say why you're not satisfied with the waiter's reaction.
Are there any other ways of showing that we aren't satisfied?
Yes, you always have the tip to play with. Giving a small tip is a powerful way of showing your dissatisfaction. Of course, you can always decide not to leave a tip at all, but if you do that, the waiter might think that you have forgotten. Remember to separate a problem with the waiter from a problem with the restaurant. If the food wasn't very good, but the waiter dealt with your complaint as well as he or she could, then you should still leave a tip.
What about once we've left the restaurant? Is there anything we can do?
Yes, there is. If you're still not satisfied after you've complained to the waiter and the manager, it's time to go to the authorities. In the UK, you can contact the Citizens Advice Bureau or the Office of Fair Trading, and in the USA, you can try your local Better Business Bureau office. Most countries have consumer organisations like this, and it's important to know how to get in touch with them.
And finally, what should we do if we get sick after eating in a restaurant?
If you get food poisoning and you believe it came from your meal, you should report it to the restaurant immediately. If the restaurant doesn't take your complaint seriously, you can report your illness to the local health department.
Owen, thank you for that advice.
My pleasure.
6b. Pronunciation. 1.
Can you pass the salt and pepper, please?
2.
Let's have fish and chips for lunch.
3.
Would you like some bread and butter with your meal?
4.
Have you put oil and vinegar on the salad?
5.
Would you like a mug or a cup and saucer for your tea?
7a. Listening.
Now let's move on to television. Last night was probably the most emotional episode of Secret Millionaire I've seen this season, and it was also the last programme of the series. For those of you who have never seen it, Secret Millionaire is a reality show where unknown millionaires go to poor areas of the UK to find people and organisations they would like to give some of their money to. On last night's show, the guest was the young millionaire Andrew Felton, a 24-year-old professional poker player who has a fortune of around £6 million. The producers of the programme managed to persuade him to leave his life of luxury to travel to Bradford, a city with the highest rate of youth unemployment in the UK. Andrew was given the keys to a one-bedroom flat in one of the worst areas of the city and told to go out and find some people to help. To explain why the cameras were accompanying him, he pretended to be an unemployed person making a documentary about volunteering opportunities for young people. The first organisation Andrew visited was the Joshua Project, a children and young people's charity run by Rich, a former music student. Rich runs his group from a converted cinema in an area where crime is high and jobs are non-existent. While Andrew was with the Joshua Project, he refereed a football match, organised a pool tournament for the kids, and helped run a workshop on cultural differences. The next charity he found was Little Heroes, an organisation that helps to improve the lives of children who have been diagnosed with cancer. After meeting the founder, Chris, he helped deliver toys to the children on the cancer ward of the local hospital, and he got to know some of the patients. Last but not least, Andrew got in touch with the Hidden Homeless Limited, a charity run by Gary, who was once homeless himself. Gary got Andrew involved with Hidden Voices, the magazine produced by the organisation. After writing an article for the next edition, Andrew stood in the city centre trying to sell enough magazines for a cup of coffee and a sandwich. The great thing about the programme was seeing Andrew learn from his experiences while he helped out at the 3 charities. Being a card player, he isn't used to showing his feelings, but last night the tears Andrew cried were real. He was shocked to see the contrast between his own life, which revolves mainly around making money, and the lives of the charity workers who dedicate all their time to helping others. Usually, the guests on Secret Millionaire agree to donate at least £60,000 of their money to charity, but Andrew gave away much more than that. He donated £100,000 to the children's cancer charity Little Heroes, £25,000 to the Joshua Project, and £28,000 to the Hidden Homeless Limited. He also gave a personal cheque to the founder, Gary, so that he could take one of the children on the holiday of a lifetime. So, Secret Millionaire went out on a high note last night. Unfortunately, it won't be back again until sometime next year. I hope you're looking forward to the next series as much as I am.
7a. Pronunciation. 1.
If you want to watch the TV, switch it on.
2.
If you like Anna, ask her out.
3.
If you can't remember her name, write it down.
4.
If the children are still asleep, wake them up.
5.
If you don't know the answer, make it up.
6.
If Jack comes, send him in.
7b. Listening.
Hello and welcome to Cyberworld. As you know, computer games are big business these days, not only for manufacturers, but also for some of the players. One particular gamer called John Jacobs has just made a fortune by selling one of his virtual properties. Our games expert Josh is with us in the studio today to tell us about the transaction. Good morning, Josh.
Hello.
Josh, can you start by telling us something about Mr. Jacobs?
Yeah, sure. John Jacobs isn't your stereotypical gamer. In real life, he runs a music and movie business in Hollywood, California. But Mr. Jacobs is also an important presence in a virtual world called Entropia Universe. Entropia Universe is an online game played by nearly 1 million people worldwide. The players use real cash to buy things in the game. Each player has an avatar, and probably the most famous avatar in the game is Never Die, the one belonging to Mr. Jacobs.
What is it then, Josh, that Mr. Jacobs has sold?
Well, until recently, Mr. Jacobs, alias Never Die, was the owner of Club Never Die, one of the hottest virtual properties in Entropia. Club Never Die is a space station situated on a virtual asteroid around Entropia's first planet, Planet Calypso. Mr. Jacobs bought the asteroid 5 years ago for $100,000. He had to take out a mortgage on his real-life house to buy it.
What is so special about Club Never Die?
Club Never Die is no ordinary space station. It is a must-see destination for other players. It has a nightclub, a stadium, and a mall where other players spend real cash on virtual goods and services. When Mr. Jacobs sold the property, he was making around $200,000 a year from it, which was enough to comfortably support him and his family.
Josh, you said that Mr. Jacobs bought the asteroid for $100,000. How much was the space station worth when he sold it?
He sold Club Never Die for $635,000. That means he made a profit of over $500,000.
Wow, that's a lot of money. Who was the buyer?
Actually, there wasn't one buyer. $635,000 is a lot of money, so the space station was sold in parts. The largest portion went to another avatar in the game called John Former Callan. He paid $335,000 for his part of the space station, which makes the sale the largest single virtual transaction ever.
Josh, why did Mr. Jacobs decide to sell Club Never Die?
He needed the money to set up a new planet in Entropia Universe called Rocktropia. It's a project he has developed with some of the major music companies. Rocktropia is a new concept that allows players to go on music-related missions and attend live concerts by bands from the real world. The project is currently said to be making around $10 per active user per month, but Mr. Jacobs won't say how many players are using it.
Let's wish Mr. Jacobs luck in his new venture then. Josh, thank you for joining us.
No problem.
7b. Pronunciation.
Audience. Curtain. Interval. Matinee. Programme. Theatre. Arena. Event. Opponent. Performance. Spectators.
8a. Listening.
Yes, well, I've been looking at some destination spas that won't break the bank. Let's start with one that is ranked top of TripAdvisor's list of resorts, the Maya Tulum Retreat and Spa in Mexico. The complex offers many different spa treatments, as well as dream classes, tropical food, and a traditional Mayan sauna. But the best thing about the resort is its location. Maya Tulum is situated on Mexico's Caribbean coast in the southeast of the country, which means that you get the best of both worlds, the sea and the rainforest. Private villas on the beach are also available. Moving further north, let's take a look at Spa Eastman in Quebec, Canada. This is a great place for experiencing the effect of different temperatures on the body. You start by lying in a hot pool or sitting in a sauna, and then you go outside to jump into a cold pool or some snow. It's a truly invigorating experience. If you want to try out some heat therapy, you can do it here too. Let's go to Europe now, to the Lascaux Thermal Spa Resort in Slovenia. The resort is just outside the village of Celje, a peaceful place surrounded by mountains and wide rivers. The scenery is stunning. But the reason that the resort is so popular is that it specialises in traditional Hindu medicine, which is based on diet, herbal treatment and breathing exercises. Another attraction is its hot natural springs. Also in Europe, there's a wonderful little resort on the island of Santorini in Greece. It's called the Museum Spa Wellness Hotel and is set in the middle of a garden that contains the 2 oldest olive trees on the island. The main building was originally a mansion that was turned into a museum before being converted into a hotel and spa. There's a beautifully decorated swimming pool and a bar in the garden, and in the spa you can have a wide range of treatments such as manicures, pedicures, facials and massages. Africa might not be a continent that you normally associate with spas, but there's an excellent resort in South Africa. The Fordoon Hotel and Spa is located in the Drakensberg Mountains, and it's rated as the best in the country. The hotel has 22 luxurious rooms, which all have balconies looking out onto the gardens, so guests can enjoy the scenery as well as the treatment. The spa offers a wide range of services, and there is also an indoor pool, bar and lounge. And there you have it, the 5 most affordable spa packages that I was able to find. Please check the websites, as the prices can vary depending on the season, but if you are flexible about when you travel, you can find some great offers.
8A. Pronunciation. 1.
How often do you have your eyes tested?
2.
They've never had their shopping delivered.
3.
When did you last have your hair cut?
4.
We're having our flat painted next week.
5.
I love having my head massaged.
8B. Listening. Speaker 1.
I was at school in southern Sweden. There were ferries that went from my town to different ports in both East and West Germany. For a generation, the East Germans had seen the ferries without being allowed to use them. Suddenly everything changed. Crowds of East Germans arrived in Sweden, easily identified by their clothes, hair, and big eyes as they saw the shop windows. They had no Swedish currency, but the local shopkeepers got together and gave them all vouchers that they could use for a few small purchases.
Speaker 2.
After getting dressed for our big day, our wedding party piled into the limo for the drive to church. Thunder showers threatened, and I was very nervous. Everyone in the car was listening to the radio in the driver's area in front of the partition. Suddenly, I saw a flash of light outside. I had actually seen the rocket go past. I tried to tell the others, but they were making too much noise. We're still married, and I don't have that much trouble remembering the anniversary date. July 20th, 1969.
Speaker 3.
I was sitting on a plane, waiting on the runway to take off at Reagan Airport in Washington. Suddenly, the pilot announced that we were returning to the airport and we wouldn't be going anywhere for the time being. Forget about your luggage and get out of the airport as quickly as possible, he said. I began to realize something horrible was happening when I got off the plane and saw the Pentagon burning. I had no idea what to do except to keep walking.
Speaker 4.
We were based in North Malaya, and I was up and about getting ready for my part-time job as a school secretary. Suddenly I heard on the radio that someone had been shot. It took me a while to realise that the newsreader was talking about the US president. I called my husband straight away, but he didn't believe me. The head of my school didn't believe me either when I told him. He thought I must have misheard and went off to check. Everyone found it difficult to believe what had happened.
Speaker 5.
I was in the UK, staying with my sister at the time. We were in the kitchen and my brother-in-law had brought home a newspaper. I glanced at the headlines and I saw that hundreds of people had been killed in Thailand. As time went on, the number increased, first to thousands, then to tens of thousands, and finally to hundreds of thousands. Of course, more countries had been affected too. I just couldn't imagine how one incident could cause such massive destruction.
8b. Pronunciation. 1,
Dark. Start. War.
2,
Afterwards. Avatar. Standard.
3,
Army. Towards. Wardrobe.
4,
Bargain. Farmer. Monarchy.
5,
Quarter. Parting. Reward.
6,
Charger. Harvest. Warning.
9a. Listening.
Next weekend, London will host the World Memory Championships. I have to confess, I've never heard of this. Jamie, what can you tell us about the competition?
Well, the competition consists of 10 different events, and in each one the competitors have to show their ability to remember different things. In one of the events, they have to recall a random series of numbers. In another event, they have to memorise the order of a pack of playing cards and then say from memory the order of the cards. This event is timed, and the man who holds the speed playing cards record is the German Simon Reinhardt. He remembered the order of the whole pack of 52 cards in 21.19 seconds. This is a task that the ordinary man on the street would not be able to do without any memory training.
Jamie, tell us something about the current world champion.
Last year's competition was won by yet another German called Johannes Mallow. Johannes is in his 30s and he holds several world records. The last one he broke was when he memorised 912 numbers in 15 minutes. In this year's World Memory Championships, he's hoping to hold on to his title.
Is there anybody else we should know about?
Yes, the man who won the first World Championships and then went on to win another 7 times in the next 10 years. His name is Dominic O'Brien and he's British. Dominic is in his 50s now and he has developed his own memory technique. Today he gives lectures about using memory to its full capacity, and he also appears on television. He has written more than 15 books on the subject, and he once had an entry in the Guinness Book of Records for memorising a random sequence of 2,808 playing cards. Before you start trying to work it out, that's 54 packs of cards.
When was the first World Championships held, Jamie?
The first time the competition was held was back in 1991. It was organised by 2 British men, Tony Buzan, one of the world's experts in memory and learning, and Raymond Keane, the British chess grandmaster and the chess correspondent for a national newspaper.
So who can compete in this competition?
Well, theoretically, anybody can take part. None of the top competitors would claim to have been born with a great memory. All of them have learnt the necessary techniques to develop their skills, and they have practiced to get to the top of their sport. Today, there are competitors from 30 different countries, all of them competing to be the next world champion.
And is the competition always held in the UK?
Most of the time, usually in London, but Oxford has hosted the championship once, and so has Manchester. But the competition has also been held abroad a few times, twice in Bahrain, twice in China, and once in Malaysia.
Well, I'm sure I'm not going to remember all that, but Jamie, thanks for coming on.
9a. Pronunciation.
Memory. Memorize. Memorable. Memoirs. Memorial. Forgetful. Unforgettable.
9b. Listening. Speaker 1.
My dad's from Pakistan, so I have a lot of relatives living there. When my cousin Fahim got married, we all went over to the wedding. In the evening, I remember being inside a marquee, one of those large tents used for social occasions, when one of my aunties came up to me and put something around my neck. It was a garland of flowers, a big circle of them. At the time, I didn't realise that it was only tourists who wore garlands like this. So I said thank you and went off to dance wearing the garland. Almost immediately, one of my cousins came up to me and said, "You want to take that off? We don't really wear those over here." I thought it was so nice that he wanted me to look like one of the family, instead of making it obvious to everyone that I was a foreigner.
Speaker 2.
This actually happened at my own wedding. My wife is from the United States, and I'm from the Basque Country in the north of Spain. We were going to get married at a civil ceremony in a courthouse in New York. On the big day, we were at home getting ready when we had a call from a friend waiting at the courthouse. She said, "When are you guys planning to get here? Because you're on in minutes." We had to leave fast. My father-in-law drove us to the courthouse, which luckily was only 5 minutes from where we lived. But he couldn't park outside. It had started to rain, and we had to cross a very busy road to get there. The most memorable thing about our wedding is that we were both absolutely soaked. It was fun, though, and we often laugh about it now.
Speaker 3.
When I was living in South Korea, a colleague invited me to her wedding. She was actually from there, so I was really looking forward to experiencing a real South Korean wedding. At the last minute, she asked me to be her bridesmaid. Even better, I thought. When we got to the venue, I was surprised to see that there were a lot of other wedding parties there. This is because in Seoul, several couples get married on the same day. After the ceremony, it was time for the photos. My colleague was carrying a bouquet of beautiful flowers, and I had to catch the bouquet for one of the photos. She had to throw it to me 3 times before the photographer could get the perfect picture.
Speaker 4.
One of my uncles is Greek, so when my cousins got married in the UK, their weddings always incorporated some of the Greek traditions. I must have been about 6 when my cousin Linda married her husband Larry. I can't recall anything at all about the ceremony, but I have great memories of the reception. My cousin was going around the tables in a long white dress which had bits of money pinned to it. Every so often, a guest would get up and pin some more money to her dress. By the end of the evening, her dress was no longer white because it was covered in blue and green banknotes. I can remember her laughing and looking really happy that day.
Speaker 5.
When I first arrived in Spain in the late 70s, I was invited to a very smart wedding. I decided to wear my best dress, which was a kind of ethnic Indian dress with lots of little mirrors and embroidery all over it. I had never been to a Spanish wedding before, so I thought my dress would be perfect. Unfortunately, I was wrong. When I got to the wedding, all of the other guests were dressed in incredibly formal outfits. The men were all in suits, and the women were wearing beautiful long gowns. The most embarrassing thing was that the other guests thought I was in fancy dress. I went right off that dress, and I gave it away as soon as I could. I later regretted it, though.
9b. Pronunciation. 1,
When the bride arrived, she realised that she'd forgotten her bouquet.
2,
You said that you hadn't received the invitation.
3,
If they'd known about the roadworks, they would have taken the train.
4,
We would have arrived on time if we hadn't got lost.
5,
As soon as he saw her, he knew that he'd done something wrong.
10a. Listening.
One of the most popular destinations in the USA is San Francisco, and I'm going to tell you a bit about its top 5 tourist attractions. No surprises for the first one, the Golden Gate Bridge. This is a suspension bridge which crosses the strait between San Francisco and Marin County to the north. It took 7 years to build, and it was completed in 1937. The bridge is painted orange so that it can be seen in the thick fog that often appears in the bay. Next on my list is San Francisco's historical fishing district, known as Fisherman's Wharf. For over a century, this area was the centre of the city's fishing community, and it is still famous for having the best seafood restaurants. One of the highlights is Pier 39, where the sea lions come out of the water to rest on the pier. Other attractions include museums, souvenir stores, historical buildings, and scenic views over the bay. OK, number 3 is the island of Alcatraz, also known as the Rock. In the past, the prison on the island held some of the most notorious criminals of the time, including Al Capone. Surrounded by the freezing waters of San Francisco Bay, Alcatraz was believed to be inescapable. Today, the island is a popular tourist attraction and a historic site, and it's open for tours. Number 4 is probably the most famous street in San Francisco. It's called Lombard Street, and it's famous because of its steep slope and its tight corners. One part of the street contains 8 hairpin bends, which were created to make the hill less steep. The speed limit in this section is only 8 kilometres an hour. And finally, the last attraction on my list is the tallest building on the San Francisco skyline, and it's called the Transamerica Pyramid. This is a skyscraper in the shape of a pyramid that is located in the heart of the financial district. It was finished in 1972, and it's 260 metres high. According to its architect, a pyramid is the best shape for a skyscraper because it lets more air and light into the streets below. I could easily give you another 10 attractions, but that is all we have time for.
10a. Pronunciation. 1,
We aren't going out tonight.
2,
When are you going on holiday?
3,
She does aerobics to keep fit.
4,
Who does the baby look like?
5,
I have a friend in New York.
6,
Where have you been?
10b. Listening.
Now, the results of some very important tests are due out next week, but you may not know anything about them. I'm not talking about O-levels or A-levels, but the PISA tests. which take place in over 70 countries of the world. Andrew, what does PISA actually stand for?
PISA letters stand for Programme for International Student Assessment, and these tests are organised by an international organisation called the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD for short. There are currently 34 members of the OECD, but that number is changing all the time as more countries join. All of the member countries sit the PISA tests, but countries who aren't members can also apply to do them.
OK, so what is the point of these tests?
Well, the idea is that the results give each country an idea of how well its education system is working. The OECD started working on PISA in the mid-1990s, and it was officially launched in 1997. The first tests took place in the year 2000, and since then they have been held every 3 years.
So who were the PISA tests developed for?
Students can take the tests when they are around 15 years old, but not every student takes part. The OECD makes a random selection of schools to cover a wide range of backgrounds and abilities. It isn't only students from the best schools that are involved.
What are the students tested on?
There are 3 different tests: reading, maths and science. Each student sits a 2-hour test that covers all 3 subjects. The tests consist of both multiple choice questions and questions which require students to write their own response. The combination of questions on the test paper is different for each student. Up until now, the tests have been pen and paper, but the OECD is studying the possibility of introducing computer-based tests in the future.
Which countries do well in the PISA tests?
Well, there are 3 countries that regularly come in the top 3. These are China, especially the city of Shanghai, Korea, and Finland.
And why do Asian students tend to be better than the rest?
It's a question of expectation, really. All students are expected to get good marks, and so they do. On the other hand, the standard of teaching is also very high, and teachers are well paid and receive good training. Today, the focus in schools is on understanding and not memorising, so that also helps.
What about Finland?
Finland is an interesting case because the system has not always been so good. But since the school reforms of the 1970s, Finland has become one of the world leaders in education. Schools employ only the best teachers who work on the principle that all of the students are able to do well. If a child is struggling, it is the responsibility of the school to help that child so that no one is left behind. These factors mean that there is a climate of trust between the educators and the community, which helps the system work.
It sounds like we all have something to learn from Finland then. Thank you.
10b. Pronunciation D. 1,
Fish. Build. Written.
2,
Tree. Believe. Cheat.
3,
Clock. Watch. Option.
4,
Bull. Book. Could.
5,
Bird. Word. Nervous.
6,
Egg. Test. Guess.
7,
Up. Enough. Multiple.
8,
Boot. School. University.
9,
Tie. Eye. Style. Revise.
10,
Boy. Oi. enjoy, choice.
10b. Pronunciation D. 1,
Fish, build, written.
2,
Tree, believe, cheat.
3,
Clock, watch, option.
4,
Bull, book, could.
5,
Bird, word, nervous.
6,
Egg, test, guess.
7,
Up, enough, multiple.
8,
Boot, school, university.
9,
Tie, style, revise.
10,
Boy, enjoy, choice.